G'day Bomber fans. Now I know I came out with a trade video just a couple of weeks back, but in that time there has been quite a lot of news pinging about. We have a fan favourite who could be at the door, we have clear interest in an All-Australian forward, and there's a watch that's been put on us in regards to one of the competition's best young stars. So let's get into it. A quick video this time around. I'm just updating you guys on what I've seen in the last few weeks. We will quickly start with some mid-season draft news. Now we are obviously in a fairly good shape, our list right now, so many were wondering if we would even use our available list spot, and the answer is yes. Matt Rosa on the Gettable podcast said we would be using our pick from Hunter's knee injury to fill a spot on our list. He didn't give any clues as to what type of player we'd be looking for, and that's fair enough, but I'd suggest we would follow the trend of unearthing talented youngsters like in previous years. Although this is our first little taste of what Rosa will give us, he's working alongside Dodoro as he learns the role. Alright, on to players. Some potential bad news. John Ralph came out just the other night and said that Nick Bryan will be hoping to leave the club at the end of the year. He is obviously a very promising young ruckman. He's still only 22 years old. He's got so much time ahead of him. He's yet to play an AFL game in 2024, and it's hard to see how he will, as he is stuck behind Todd Goldstein. There are some talks that Goldstein could even play on next year, which would make Bryan's decision a lot easier. Goldie has hit a trigger for a contract extension, a one-year deal. The issue for Bryan is that he is contracted, so the club can hold him to his contract if we wanted to try and convince him to stay longer. All Bryan can really do is request a trade and hope whatever club comes for him comes hard enough to convince Essendon to let him walk. He's contracted till 2025, so if we did keep him, it would have to be with him playing in the sights. I'd hate for us to hold him to his contract and keep him in the VFL even more. It's tough because I would love Bryan to stay for the future. I think he could be a really good ruck and a good partner to Draper. Very different players, but I also don't want us to just keep him and play him in the reserves. It's a tough situation for Bryan, who looked really promising late last year. I was keen to see him in 2024, but I doubt we see him much at all. Maybe once or twice to rest Goldie, but that won't be enough to convince him to stay. He is clearly far too good for the VFL, and other clubs know that. There were apparently 4 clubs last year that came knocking at the end of the year. He had an offer from Gold Coast before even playing an AFL game a few years ago. I think the way it is now, he's probably going to be playing elsewhere either next year or more likely the year after. I get the feeling we could hold him to his contract and see how 2025 goes. Alright, Jake Stringer. Now, I wasn't really nervous about any trade news. There were a few headlines about him and contract talks being put on hold. Some seem to think he could be a potentially gettable player because of that, but for anyone who may have been worried, you don't need to anymore. He is currently in talks for a new contract. His management has been getting the work done for him while he goes about his work on the field. Don't know what the deal is going to be yet, whether it's 1 year or 2 years or 3, you never know. But the good news is he is happy playing at Essendon and won't be playing elsewhere, it seems. Alrighty, so a few stories regarding potential incoming players, starting with Harley Reid. Now, this was huge on Twitter for a day or two. It came after we beat West Coast the other week. Tom Morris came out and, in his words, he said, put a watch on Essendon in regards to Harley Reid, us trying to pry him out of Perth and bring him back to Melbourne, or Victoria, I guess. He obviously trained with us at the start of last year and played with our VFL team at the end of last year. He's built some strong relationships with Essendon players as well. He liked his time with Essendon, spoken about it a lot. Now, I do think Reid, at some stage in his career, is going to be receiving offers he cannot refuse. He's going to be a gettable player from Victorian clubs, or probably the whole league, to be honest, but not 1 year into his AFL career. While he is contracted, he's going to be staying at West Coast. They're going to hold him to his contract unless they get a crazy deal for it, and I mean a crazy deal. They turned down 4 first-round draft picks last year to select Reid. I think we would have to offer much more than that to even think about getting, for them to think about getting rid of him. And Essendon only have 1 draft pick. We are set to have 1 mid to late first rounder in the 2024 draft, so there is no way it gets done this year. I think he stays at West Coast for a while. He's a hero there, a genuine star, and yes, he would get that in Victoria too, but I don't think he would be getting the opportunities he is at the Eagles right now. I don't think there's anything here. Tyson Stengle. Now, this is a player we were keen on a few years back when he was coming back into the AFL fold as that as that delisted free agent. He ended up choosing Geelong, won a flag, became an All-Australian small forward. He's now an unrestricted free agent and he's yet to sign on. Mitch Cleary came out and said that we are very interested in Stengle, along with St Kilda, who seem to be interested in everyone right now. A few things here. Stengle is yet to re-sign. It's getting to the stage of the year when you want to be locking these players up. If we get post-buy and Stengle is still on the market, it could be interesting. There hasn't been much talk about Stengle and his contract until now. I just wonder if a different club could give him more security than what he currently has. He only earned a 1-year deal last season despite being an All-Australian the year before. I still think he probably stays at Geelong. They're good to him there, but I would think we would come hard for him. We would make us a better team, a 2 or 3 goal better team. Not off his own boot, but just what he does for his teammates as well. He is a very, very good player at his best. Alright, there's been more Tarryn Thomas news in the last week weeks since I uploaded my recent trade video, and it's not good news for anyone really. To set the context, we were interested in Thomas last year. North wanted to keep him. He was then delisted before the season began because of behavioural issues, specifically towards women. He has since come out and showed he wants to play AFL footy still in 2025, but it's seemingly getting to a stage where clubs just wouldn't want to take him anymore. There's been more disturbing news to come out in the last couple of weeks about Thomas and his behaviour towards women. There was also a leaked email that Sam McClure, I think it was, came out and unveiled to the public. It was from Sonia Hood, the Kangaroos president. She emailed every club and the AFL warning them about Thomas. This came after they realised clubs would be interested in picking him up to try and change him. Apparently Thomas had been attending heaps of educational sessions to improve his behaviour, but it was not working. So if clubs were not scared off before, I think they will be now. I reckon fans would be furious if we were to pick up Thomas. I would hate it. I wouldn't want to cheer for this guy in the crowd. I'm all for second chances, but he needs to first show signs that he wants to change, because right now every bit of news that comes out against him or about him is negative, and it paints a further picture into what he is really like and what he would bring to the club. So it's looking like Thomas won't be on an AFL list in 2025 right now. Alright, now this one's pretty interesting. Harry Perryman. All the news about Perryman has been about a return to South Australia. He's an unrestricted free agent at GWS, meaning they cannot match a bid. We could pick him up for a packet of chips and they can't do anything about it. But it's set to be a bidding war because there are some clubs heavily interested and willing to splash cash. Port Adelaide are the biggest, and Adelaide and Sydney, I think, are around the mix as well. But the last few days has me thinking that we are going to be right in the mix as well as those clubs. We've been named alongside them a fair bit this year, in the back seat, mind you. Cal Toomey directly questioned Matt Rosa about Perryman and no other player, which I find fascinating. Toomey is the guy you want to be listening to when you're after trade news. He's fantastic. Check out the Gettable podcast if you haven't already. It's a great show. So I think there's something here. That's if he does choose to move on. Perryman is a good player. He would be a very handy replacement for Dyson Heppel, who is winding down in his career. There will be much more to come out later in the year, in the next few months, but I have my eyes on this one more than any other potential deal so far. I think there is a bit in this, the way people are talking about it. That is all though. Quicker video today, not taking too much of your time. I'll come out with the usual full trade rumour video highlighting our links in the next month, maybe a tad later than usual to avoid annoying you guys with all the trade talk. Stay tuned to the channel for the next fortnight. I'll be doing a lot in regards to the mid-season draft and national draft as well, actually. That's all though. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and go Bombers.